Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today I'm here in the shop and I'm making some inlay. So if there's any luthiers watching, you know the price of abalone and mother of pearl and stuff like that and how much it costs if you want to purchase blanks. It's like $80 for an ounce. That's ridiculous. So what I'm doing is I decided to make my own out of abalone shells. Right, so this is, I purchased this at the Denver Gem and Mineral Show. They're $1 each. So instead of paying $80 for something, all we have to do is a little bit of work, a little bit of ingenuity, some tools, and I'll show you how we do it. All right, the first thing is you can see that this shell here, there's a lot of curves and stuff in it. We can't really use that unless we're gonna use really narrow purfling and stuff, which you can absolutely do. That's what this piece right here is. It's just the curved part that I cut off. And there's still some flat area there. It's probably a ½ inch at the widest, down to a ¼ inch, which is useful, but it has that curve in it too, which makes it really difficult. You know, we have to cut it smaller ½ inch, 1 inch pieces. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking this is just reinforced cutoff disc from Dremel. It's got the reinforcement stuff on there. You can also use the regular cutoff disc, but these break a lot. And then the little diamond wheel, which I didn't even get to. I'm trying to go through all of these and I just got sick of changing it. So I went right to the reinforced one. But I figured this one here is probably the best, right? The diamond. So any of those three would work. I wouldn't recommend doing it on the bandsaw because if you did, it could catch and blow the entire thing up. I'll cut off everything from here. I'll get rid of these because right here where these little holes are, there's like a waviness that has to be ground down anyway. So from here, I just cut basically this entire curve off, like following the pencil line, like that. And then this part here, where all these deep curves and stuff are in this area, I'll just cut this area out. And then I'll be left with this inner part, right? And I'll cut that into smaller, like 1 inch squares or 7/8 inch squares. Got my mask on, and you can just observe what I do. I won't be able to explain as I go, so just watch how I do it. Okay, so here's our waste. I mean, you could still, like I said before, you can still use it for purfling or any application that's going to use some curved stuff or really tiny pieces. You can certainly cut this up and make it into really small pieces, but the curve makes it kind of unusable for flat surfaces, and that's what I need these for my logos. So these two small pieces, this was a small shell. The bigger shells are thicker and you get away with more grinding. These thinner shells, you don't get as much, but for $1 a piece, I mean, that's 80 bucks worth of inlay, abalone right there. So then after that, and by the way, wear a mask, wear glasses, and you'll figure that out on your own soon enough. But this stuff, you will get silicosis from it. It'll solidify in your lungs, and it ain't good. So definitely wear PPE. These are the sizes that we're going to be working with here. They're just rough now, but they're already looking familiar. You can see it's not perfectly straight. So in order to make them straight, what we have to do is sand one side flat, and we're going to run it through the thickness sander and I'll show you how to do that to make the top flat. So all we have to do is get one side flat by hand, and I'll show you how to do that here. Don't mind the noise. I can't do it with one hand, but another thing that I like to use is this is one of those sander erasers. You know, it cleans off your belts. You can actually put that right on top of there, and instead of having your fingers right on top of it, which you can do as well, this thing here allows you to get more even pressure all the way across, and it'll flatten out the one side. So let me get my tripod. I'll show you how I do that. All right, let's try that again. So this is the way I was doing it. Let me put on my mask here. All right. This is the piece we're working on. Another thing is, this is kind of important. I like to flatten the shiny part first. You flatten this, and then this rough side is what's gonna be ran through the thickness planer, and the bulk of the material will be taken off the top, which is the rougher side, which makes more sense, right? So first we'll do it just by hand, and then I'll show you how I do it with this. This thing is actually, because these also get really, really hot in your fingers, and you can't really wear gloves. I wouldn't recommend wearing gloves when working with power tools anyway, so you have to use your bare hands, but you're gonna sand your fingers off a little bit. And that's fine, you can do it like that. But when you're doing 50 of them, and you can press down a lot harder, and the work gets done faster with one of these things. So there you go. That is a flat edge. We'll set that off to the side, and we'll continue going. This one here is pretty bent. I don't know if you can tell on camera. This one here is pretty wavy right there. This one here might not work. We might have to trim, we might have to cut some of this off. So instead of taking it over to the saw again, we can just sand it off. Another cool thing about this is when you're running it, if you press down on the back, it'll actually clean the sandpaper as you work. So you get a twofer there. So this one here is pretty darn flat on that side, and that's all we need to do. So I'll continue that process for all of these. This is a thinner piece, right? This was from like the middle of the shell where it's real thin. Around the edges, it's thicker. So when you get to the middle of the shell, it might look flatter, and you would think that's the better part. But when it comes down to it, when you start sanding it and trying to get it level, it's actually gonna disintegrate almost the entire piece. So this is so thin, it's just, you know, we can't use that. So that's something to consider. This piece here, we've got a good 1/16 of an inch to work with, maybe 3/32. So, but we also have that big dip right here. And if we left that on, we would have to grind the entire thing down until that was gone. So we're gonna remove that edge and then flatten the shiny part. That's another thin part. It looked at first like it was gonna be a great piece, but it's just super thin, so. All right, got a handful to go, and then I'll show you how to run them through the thickness sander. All right, next we have to attach the good pieces to a flat piece of wood, and we're gonna run it through our thickness sander. So far, we have a few pieces that are too thin. They're not gonna, they have like a hollow in the middle because they were too curved. I didn't cut them small enough. That's all that means. I probably could save that one, but we're gonna have a pile of junkers and a pile of keepers at the end, just so you can kind of figure out how much waste you're gonna end up having, not including the curved cutoff part. This pile has one flat side What we need to do is we need to stick them to this flat piece of wood, run it through the thickness sander. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a piece of blue tape and some super glue. And instead of super gluing this directly to the wood, which would make it very difficult and probably break it when we're coming to take it off, we're just gonna super glue the tape to itself. It's a good workaround. So for double stick tape, a lot of, that's solid right there. I don't even have activator on that. That's another thing you could do, you know, just take a small piece of tape, put it on the back of one of your things, the other piece of tape right here, and then you just put a drop of super glue on one side and then just spray activator. I happen to have a little dropper for my activator, just a little bit of activator right there, and then it automatically cures it right like that. That's permanent until I don't want it to be permanent anymore, right? So we'll just go ahead and do that for everything, and then we'll go to the next step. And honestly, if we get one single good piece out of this entire process, this took me less than an hour to do. It cost me, not including the tools, of course, you know, the sander and the drill and all that stuff. It cost, you know, $10 for, not even, just for the shells. You got to find them wholesale though, like I did at the gem show. You could probably find them online, eBay, stuff like that. You could find mother of pearl as well. And this also works for like pieces of ebony and stuff. I just made a whole batch of ebony, really thin ebony. And this is the same process that I used. So I didn't do it with shell yet, but it should work. We already lost one piece right there. It blew off somehow. I'm not expecting all of them to work. All right, not too bad. Looks like we have a couple of them that split in half, but there's still usable stuff there. Like this one here broke. We'll get in between the tape with this little thin spatula here. I'll just pull that up. You can see it broke. But now we have a usable piece of abalone inlay. 1 ounce of this stuff, like I said, costs about $80. We'll go ahead and peel all this off and we'll weigh it up just to see how much money. I mean, technically, if we sold this stuff, this is like a money printing machine, right? I did all this within an hour. So let's go ahead and we'll take these pieces off and we'll lay them out, and I'll show you the quality first of all. And yeah, we'll weigh it up and see what we get. All right, so we got like 1.5 ounces almost. And there you go. Nice and flat on one side. The other side is also flat. They are about 1/16 of an inch thick, or about 1 millimeter, a little over 1 millimeter. So here you can see a small batch of ebony that I did. There's still a little bit of super glue on the one side. These are a little bit thicker, but we have pearl and ebony. I'm going to take these to my laser engraver, and this is what the KleshGuitars logo is going to look like on the guitars. It's going to have a K with the little arms sticking out of it there. The K is going to be the pearl, and the ebony disc is going to be the same, except the K is going to be pearl. So there you go. I used to carve these by hand. Like this one here, that's hand carved along with every other inlay I've ever done. But I'm going to be doing 10 guitars a month and carving these out takes me personally way too long, so I'm gonna hire somebody to do it for me on a laser to have a perfect result at a little bit of a cost to me, but to me it's worth it. So anyway, there you go. Awesome, nice pieces of Abalone Inlay. Works for pearl, works for ebony, and a little bit of waste. You know, I mean, I could technically probably still use some of this, but you can see up close how there's that dip in it, and we don't want that. So anyway, that's all I got for today. If you enjoyed the video, learned something, hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you want, and that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching.